We are learning that only 12% of people who've been fined for breaking quarantine or the group gatherings COVID law have actually paid their fines, and it looks like more than 50% are fighting the ticket in court, probably hoping that they'll be thrown out by a judge. Just wondering what your reaction to this is, and would you like to see more people face criminal justice rather than just being fined?
Well, I know that when it comes to these pop-up nightclubs, the one in Vancouver that was quite prominent and another one, I believe, that's under investigation in Surrey, law enforcement has every intention of pressing charges. That will lead, of course, to court action, and I think that's appropriate. When people are deliberately disregarding the well-being of other British Columbians, we need to have more than just a slap on the wrist, more than just a fine. I'll leave those to law enforcement and to the Minister of Public Safety, Mike Farnworth, to manage and address, but I'm confident that we put in place a regime when it comes to public health and public safety that most British Columbians are following, and I think it's important, and I appreciate that the anomalies become newsworthy, but I think it's important that I take this opportunity to say that the overwhelming majority of British Columbians are rock solid when it comes to abiding by public health orders, and in fact, as you know, there are many people that are telling us we should go even further. We're trying to find that balance to make sure that people can continue to exercise their good judgment, but when that judgment becomes bad judgment, we have tools at our disposal to take action. We'll continue to do that.
Binder, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, and speaking of those who don't follow the rules, there are a couple of churches that continue to have in-person services, and I understand the province is seeking an injunction. Just wondering, how big of a worry is this for you, and are you worried that the relationship there between faith leaders and the province and public health has broken down?
No, not well. Certainly, in the case of those who have taken legal action against Dr. Henry and public health, well, that's the case you're talking about. That was not action by the province. That was a response to action by a small number of faith communities. The overwhelming majority of faith leaders and those who are people of faith across the province, whatever denomination they might be, whatever faith they practice, have been following the orders, sometimes reluctantly, to be sure. But we've talked regularly, Dr. Henry and Minister Dix and I think we've had at least a half a dozen large conferences with people of faith, faith leaders. We've set up a table for dialogue at the WASC Centre with a facilitator to make sure that we're hearing clearly from those that are concerned about the long delays between people coming to gather together in person. And as we see our vaccination program take hold, as we see the case count continue to drop, I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised at how this collaboration and positive working relationship will lead to a more accelerated reduction of those public health orders. Dr. Henry's intimated to that as recently as last week. We're not out of the woods yet. As I say, we've got a dialogue set up at the WASC Centre in Vancouver. We're engaging virtually with people all the time. There are a small group of people who believe that this is something that should be litigated. Dr. Henry, by seeking the injunction on advice from the Attorney General's ministry, was just following procedure. This was not something we initiated. It's a defensive posture. I believe that, as I say, the vast majority of people of faith understand and recognize that they have a responsibility to their loved ones and those that they don't even know to follow health orders to keep everybody safe.
Just following up a little bit on the churches and fines not being paid and churches going to court, I'm just wondering what your concern is of the cost to taxpayers, the cost to court time of all of these things being battled in court and the lawyers required for that.
Well, I would prefer that not be the case, but not just people, but organizations have every right to proceed to legal action if they feel that's their only recourse. We're confident that the public health orders that have been put in place by Dr. Henry and the emergency orders that we put in place are constitutional. We have the ability to do this. We're protecting the public interest. There are a small group of people that disagree with that. I want to reiterate, the faith community, leadership in the faith community have been stellar across the board. This is very difficult for people who congregate weekly, sometimes many times in a week, to celebrate their faith, whatever it might be. And nobody wants to get in the way of that, but we're in a global pandemic, and I want to just pay tribute to those who have been abiding by the rules, abiding by the public health orders, not just in the faith community, but across the board. People have made extraordinary sacrifices, and we should never diminish that. But we're not out of the woods yet, and if there are those that feel that the courts are the best course of action for them, they have every right to do that. I disagree, and we'll have that. They'll have their day in court, and I will continue to thank the many, many thousands of British Columbians who are abiding by the rules, because they know it's in their, not just their interest and their family's interest, but British Columbia's interest as well.